भर ठहर जाओ, दिल ये संभल जाए, कैसे तुम्हें रोका करूं. What is that one childhood memory of us that is always going to be there in your head? What is that one sweetest thing that I did for you? When you went away, it was the most difficult phase for the whole family. This is the struggle that a person can go and how they can come out of it. Don't ever forget the reason why you went where you are right now. Hello and welcome to another episode of Filterless Talk by Catalyst Crew, a podcast show where we strip away the noise and get real. Today's episode is one of the most amazing episodes because it's special to my heart. Yes, the guest is none other than my sister all the way from New York City, and she has been the role model all my life and all my childhood. I've looked upon to her and has been the only mirror around me. Yes, Asta Shah, a graduate from Carnegie Mellon University, who has built her career abroad and has stayed deeply with her roots and connected with her families and her passions. From navigating through NRI life to having her challenges of being away from home to following her passion from music with her page of Vocal Diaries with Asta, this conversation is going to be a lot about friendship, family, inspiration, and study abroad and life abroad. Yes, let's get real, let's get filterless with Asta Shah on The Filterless. Hi Asta, welcome to my show. Hi Ria, I'm really glad to be here. I know that we've been thinking to do this for a long time. We thought we'd do it online, but now I'm here and I'm so glad that I'm here. I think this is the most civilized we've ever been in past all the years that two sisters are sitting without fighting politely. So today I'm expecting really good conversation with you because it's been years now that you are staying in New York and we haven't been able to talk much. But I want to know a lot of about you and the side of how we've grown apart, but yet we are together. So, Asta, before we begin with the whole conversation, being your sister has always made me feel too much of pride. But at the same time, that comes with a lot of things. And I want to understand that how do you think of yourself as an elder sister? Has that pressure of being an elder sister ever been with you or what? With regards to being an elder sister, yeah, of course, I have always had that pressure. We are 5 years apart. So it is difficult in terms of being that role model, being that go-to person for you. And I personally love doing that, obviously, and I would want you to reach out to me anytime. But of course, it comes with its set of pressures. Yeah, I mean, I love doing that. So it's okay. Yeah. But when it comes to the two of us, do you think you are more protective towards me or you are a little bit childlike when it comes to me? No, when it comes to you, I think I'm always protective. Even like if you're walking on the road, I'll always be like, you stand aside or something like that. Or I've always tried to protect you with regards to your emotions, with regards to your career path or anything like that. So I've always been protective about you, and you know that. Yeah. So yeah. So I've always looked up to you like a mother, honestly speaking. Okay. So if you ask me anybody after my mother with whom I'm scared, at the same time, I would go and tell all my secrets to. It's always been you. So that is fun growing up with you. But now growing apart from you is a little bit difficult for me too. Coming to that only, how do you see yourself in your own life, like as a role model? And what is that one childhood memory of us that is always going to be there in your head when it comes to you being an elder sister? The responsibility of elder sister came onto you. Like, how did that entire thing happen? I mean, in terms of having childhood memories, I don't think we've had a lot of memories because we were 5 years apart. I was already grown up when you were young. But I always remember those little times where we used to play like Ghar Ghar, or we used to you always used to follow me around everywhere. You used to try to look like me, or even wear clothes like me, or try to do things like me, which was kind of a initial building of me as a role model for you, I would say. But like those little moments where I was, trying to pester you, or you were trying to pester me. Yeah. Those moments I remember. And then you getting irritated with the child inside me. Of course, and you running to our mom to just try to complain about me, or "Arey mummy, ye mujhe maar rahi hai," kind of a thing. All those small That's things. Always there. I also feel that when it comes to like core childhood of mine, like until I was in my 6th to 7th grade, I did not know if we were good friends also. Exactly. Because we never related with each other. But the moment when I completed my 10th and you were already in your college, that's when I thought that now that sister bond that is like completely irresistible, separable, not separable at all, started happening. I would also want to mention one little thing. I remember when we were in school, you always used to have lunch, come to my class to have lunch with my friends and not really be with your friends because you wanted to, like, be with your sister. Yeah. And always, you were also very protective of me in school. Yeah. Like, I remember when I think there was one of my friends who was trying to, like, say bad things about me or something, and you overheard her. That's just me being Gundi. Exactly. You being the Gundi that you are. You kind of just went up to her and say, "Arey, why are you saying this to my sister?" and stuff like that. So those are very little moments that I remember from my school days. Of course, I loved being your sister then and now, of course. And do you remember, like, you just gave out a lot of insights from our childhood memories, which I may have it all blurred. But what is that one sweetest thing that I did for you? I would say this thing that I pointed out, right, where you actually ran. I didn't even know that this person was talking badly about me or whatever. And you just ran up to her and said, like, "Arey, how can you do this to my sister?" And like, and you being that young, like, she was my age, and you being that young, maybe I think must be like second. I was not a bully, guys, I'm telling you. No, you are not a bully, of course. But yeah, I mean, you just doing that thing very selflessly. I really felt nice when I got to know about it afterwards. Yeah. So, and also, I feel you have been doing that for me throughout our life as well. You've been trying to protect me. But you don't have to, but you just want to protect me from the world. So, I'll be very honest about this whole situation. I understand that you are the elder sister here, but all this time, like throughout our journey of being sisters, bonding together, I've constantly felt that I am more involved towards you in terms of I need to protect you from the evil world around you, because I always think of you as that naive, sweet, innocent girl who's like very focused with her education, studies, a little bit introverted because we know we have very opposite behaviors, like complete yin yang situation we live in. Okay, so I always think of you like you are my project, which is the wrong thing to say mentally if you see. I think that's how all extroverts are. They kind of adopt an introvert. And just like, and then you're just my adopted introvert, and I have to take care of you. Yeah. Coming to that, I also remember that I love the fact that the kind of family we come from is like we are all very closely knit. Like the four of us, there's no other world to us, only the four of us are there. And at that time, if you ask me, all the creativity part of me comes from me creating every birthday letters for you and you responding on it like, "Oh, nicely made, this and that." So that small appreciations that I used to get from you as a child, because I used to admire the most, meant so much to me. So thank you for the same. Secondly, I want to also question you about this thing that you started living abroad, like in New York City, and you started adapting that life. Ever have you felt like you were too homesick in some situations and you just wanted your little sister? Or there are some FOMOs that keep on happening when you are usually when a person is abroad and the whole family is here. There are a lot of FOMO situations that happen. So how did you deal with all of it? And can you just put some insights on this? So, I mean, this conversation would like go on and on. Yeah. We have all the time on the world to talk to you. But so I decided to move abroad like 3 years ago now, and finished my master's, and then moved to New York for my job. Throughout those 3 years, I think the most difficult period for me in terms of being homesick was the first year when I was in my university. Because in the first year, of course, there are a lot of changes that anyone goes through, whoever is living abroad. And for me personally, I had never been out of the house at all. And it was the first time me living away from the family and even like living by my own. So I was always this person who liked being like my own company. So being alone didn't scare me initially, but then I actually realized the importance of being alone, and also how it felt, or the negative aspects of it as well. Of course, homesickness is one of them. Little moments where, okay, if I'm traveling abroad or if I'm traveling to a place, I would feel like, oh, if Riya was there, if mom or dad were there, it would have been so nice. Yeah. Or even like little moments, like I want to go home and share it to you, but I have to wait for the day to happen in India, and then I could talk it out, right? Definitely. So all of those little things, then me being busy with my university and not being able to see the life that you guys are also going through in India, that was also very challenging. I know our family also went through a very difficult period during that time, and me not being there personally was again very hard. So all of those factors were there. Something that got me through it was the focus that I had for my studies, and the focus that I had to finish my education and do something with my life. Always stayed with me, and that's how I went forward and tried to, get through it. Completely understandable. Honestly speaking, when you went away, it was the most difficult phase for the whole family, because when you are like just the four of us in a whole world, one piece gets away, the whole block falls down. It felt like that. Okay, I cannot put it better, but there are different ways that we have felt that emotion. And that whole situation taught us one thing, all the four of us, that is detachment. And that the change is the only constant throughout a life journey. Because never would have I imagined, like, because COVID happened, and COVID may all the four of us were more close to each other, and you and I were like everywhere, all over the place, inseparable. With all the songs, singing together, dancing together, doing all the hobbies, and having that, developing that taste of togetherness. And then knowing that you are going away, yeah, it was surely one of the difficult phases, but I'm glad that happened because it was needed for the two of us to grow. Because we were living a very codependent life, and I think everybody around should know. I wouldn't say codependent, but I would say we were living a very protected life. Yeah. Where we were very comfortable in our own zones and really did not care about the whole world. But it's very important to get out of that shell and see what the perspective of the world is. How to even like be by yourself without anyone just being there, and you also being here, and like you're still with family, but you also have to not be you have to be without me as well, right? Yeah. So that aspect was also very important, so I totally get it. It was definitely important. Coming to that, when you said that you started your journey, your life, again going to a country completely different from the culture you've come from, and you being you, we both have been raised in a way that we are very controlled to our roots, we are very sticked to our roots, and we always love to be spiritually active towards our culture, religion. So, what was that big cultural shift, and how did you feel about it? So, in terms of cultural shift, of course, it's America. It's the country of freedom, I would say. Yeah. So there's a lot of independence, a lot of freedom, which comes with its own pros and cons, of course. But the part that I liked about moving there was again the independence that I got, the freedom that I got to like explore myself without any judgments from anyone outside. That's a bit hard in India. Although I know that our parents have been extremely supportive of us. They haven't stopped us in doing anything. But still, there's a bias that gets created in terms of the society being there around you. So that judgment that I was being scared of, that completely went away when I went to the US. And that is something that I'm very, very grateful for. In terms of being spiritually grounded still, like I wouldn't say I'm like very separated from my roots, because I still am very spiritual. I'm still very religious. I still celebrate all the festivals. I have a life that in fact much better, I've observed. Exactly, in a much better way. Because now I understand the value of our Indian culture and of our Indian roots, which I wouldn't have understood if I was here, right? So that is something that I really found to be very healing in the process. I just want to mention one more thing. So as I mentioned, like the first year was extremely difficult in the US, right? Spirituality and religion is something that actually got me out of it. There was a moment where I actually was about to just give up. and come back maybe. But then I actually sat next to God. I had a murti, Ganpati Bappa ka murti, and I sat next to it. I actually cried my heart out, saying that like, I just want, just give me the strength to go through whatever I'm going through, and it will be all right. And after that, everything actually started falling into place.
Exactly.
So that actually helped me explore my religion in a better way and understand the importance of having a spiritual life as well. Even if you're staying in India, US, or anywhere in the world, that's important.
So, do you really think that after you went, you were more into spiritual than you were when you were here? Because here you were exploring it with our parents, and there you started your own spiritual journey, your own path of it, and finding how God and your faith and your belief is helping you pass through toughest situations there. So, do you really think that being alone helped you move more towards it rather than the way it was here?
I would say it was different in both ways. Here, I was actually following what my parents taught me to do, right? But over there, in addition to what my parents taught me to do, I understood how to talk to God. Like how to just do it by myself and not really in a religious way, like following a particular set of instructions or something like that. But I understood how to actually let your heart out in front of, and also believe in a superpower over you. Like just there's someone holding,
and that makes you very humble, especially when you're growing.
Yes, it makes you humbled and it makes you very in a country when you actually feel alone, living alone. It makes you feel that someone's there to take care of you.
Makes sense. So you were not alone there.
No,
you had
I
it. Okay, Carnegie Mellon now, your university. It's one of the dream universities for a lot of kids. Obviously, getting in there is definitely a difficult task. And at the same time, once you get there, the syllabus, the way things happen, the education system is very different between India and US. So, can you just describe it for young students? How is it difficult, and how did you manage it all together? Like, how did you hold the entering into a new city, working out, then managing your studies together, as well as creating a circle of your own?
Again, a long conversation. But try to keep it like as generic as possible. I would say, first of all, I was extremely glad that I got into Carnegie Mellon. It is one of the, as you said, it is one of the best universities, especially in my field of work. I did my master's in information systems management and specialized in data analytics. Yeah, in that field, it is one of the greatest universities. Just being in that university and just being around the extremely talented people, it really brought a really new perspective in my own mind. Of course, I was always very focused towards the education. Even like in here when I was doing my engineering.
You're a Padaku Nena. We've always been calling you Nena all our life. Exactly. So we are the original combo of Nena and Bunny in our household.
Keeping aside the romantic aspect.
Yeah, I still love you.
No, so I was always like focused on my education a lot, but I got a really new perspective on education. So like you were in the US, rote learning is really not recommended because you actually understand the fundamentals of a concept right from the basics, and even the professors are really amazing. Even at CMU, whatever courses I took a lot of AIML courses, I took a lot of software engineering courses, Java, C++, or Python, and it really helped me actually grow into the role that I'm currently doing, because my engineering was in electronics and telecom. So I didn't really do a lot of programming, and the most programming or the most about data analytics or data science that I learned was in my job at Quantify before I did my master's and at CMU. So those skill sets that I learned are really invaluable to me. And again, as I said, just being in that environment of the university, people having like such innovative ideas, it was really an inspiration.
Was it extremely competitive out there, or was it like you all grow together and is more like a collaborative environment?
I would say it is competitive. People are really competitive. They would do anything to wouldn't say they would try to one up each other, but they would still be very competitive to grow on their own. but at the same time, of course, helping each other out as well. I remember we used to all like sit together and do
Yeah.
assignments and like help each other out in terms of, okay, you're not understanding this concept, let me explain this to you. Or there was no like, pulling each other down kind of a thing at all. We all used to like do everything together. And like my roommate, she was also very amazing. Even a
Yeah.
lot of my other friends that I made over there were really amazing. So I'm really glad that I had that experience at CMU, although it was very difficult. We had sleepless nights. We used to like stay awake till 4 a.m. in the night, 4, 5 a.m., have like literal no meals at all,
Yeah.
or even like get Chipotle or get a coffee from Starbucks and stay awake. So that was our life over there. It is general student life in the US, I would say, plus doing all the household activities, of course. And I was fortunate enough, I did not do any side jobs, or I did not do a TA-ship or research assistantship. I should have done it, but it's fine. Yeah, so many people do that as well, and I really appreciate how people manage their time and get through the whole process.
Understood. Now, while you are talking all of this happened in Pittsburgh.
Mhm.
Now you moved from Mumbai to Pittsburgh, then from Pittsburgh to New York, and have changed houses across the globe, I would now say. So, do you think that sometime you feel that where do I exactly belong? Like the moment you went from Mumbai, you already had friends, family, culture in Mumbai. Then you adapt Pittsburgh. You had friends, family around everything in Pittsburgh. And then from Pittsburgh to New York, starting a whole new life again. So do you think that it's like in just 3 years, your life has taken too many turns? And what was your mental conditions throughout that, and how did you cope up with it?
So yeah, that was definitely one of the hardest parts. And for someone like me, I don't like changes at all.
Yeah.
Or I would say I didn't like changes at all. But as you said, like I had a life in Mumbai. I left that. I went to Pittsburgh and I created a life there, which was extremely amazing. Throughout moving like to different places, what I discovered is different parts of myself. The part in Mumbai that was there that got highlighted a lot was the protected me, or the quiet me, or the patient me. In Pittsburgh, I was the strong me. I actually understood what went through. I actually understood how I grew as a person and how strong I was as a person and how I got through things, right? And the part in New York that I like the most is the fun me. So I think I am actually having a lot of fun with myself and just trying to explore life and not really overthink about life a lot. So that's something that I explored. So I tried to get I discovered different parts of me through living in each
Yeah.
of these cities. And that's something that I really appreciate or am grateful for that happened to me.
Okay. Before we like move on to another like segment of our conversation, I would want to ask you one more last things around this thing. Is that Asta, I have not seen you more confident in your entire time the way you are right now in this phase. So obviously, the young me has seen Asta being very much focused and giving 100. So why I always say that you're my role model is that I have been that person who keeps on multitasking, while you are that one person who is giving 100% in anything that you do. So you will be like, I'll do my first task 100%, then the second task, then the third task, and that's how you live. Whereas I'll be like juggling through things, multitasking, and both of us have our cons and pros about the same thing. But I've never seen you more confident. What is the secret behind it?
I don't think there's a secret behind it. I think that I've started becoming comfortable in my own skin. And for that, I think I'm really grateful for the people around me. They've made me feel comfortable, I would say. But also, I think I've started becoming okay with having a bit of imperfection. As you said, I put 100% in everything. I used to put 100% in everything. But now I think I've started kind of cutting some slack for myself. I'm not really putting the pressure on me to just be 100% in everything.
Yeah.
Because I know I can't be 100% in everything.
Trust me, emotionally, I've always seen you like Monica Geller and no one else.
Exactly.
And our perfect combo, like the friendship that we also share is similar to what Monica and Rachel. And when you left house, it was like the same thing that happened in Friends, but it felt like an end of an era.
Welcome to the real world. It sucks. You're gonna love it.
Definitely agree to that. It definitely sucks 100%. Okay, so when we are talking about the real world and the reality that hit us all together, you mentioned that there was this one phase where you wanted to give it up all. I want to talk about that. I want you to share what was that ultimate situation where you wanted to like just go away, find home, and still you were not able to. If you can just define it for my audience, that this is the struggle that a person can go and how they can come out of it.
So, as I said, like initially, right, I have never been away from home. So one of the most difficult things for me was that separation from home and not being able to be there emotionally for or even physically for you, mom and dad, right? And the most difficult thing for me was not being there for you when you were going also through a very bad phase in your life. And for both of us, it happened at the same time,
Yeah.
right? So that made it even worse. And in terms of our mom's health was also not that great. That gave me a lot of guilt for me not being able to be there for her as well physically. So all of that combined with me having my own insecurities and me having my own I would say imposter syndrome of not being able to make it in such a big university or not being able to do what I wanted to do, all those fears were there. And I think anyone would have those fears, but that kind of exaggerated itself for me because of all the mental health issues that I was
I
going
think
through.
because you never said it out loud is what I personally noticed. That all this time when you were protected, when you were with all of us, there was only a part of you that got highlighted, and the other part was being managed by me, or like we were shadowing each other with our insecurities. But when the whole separation happened, when that separation happened, we both realized that there are this side of our personality that we are not at all noticing. We've always kept it somewhere buried inside us. And then when this whole situation happened, when the tough times came out, that's when everything that was bottled up just came out loud.
And I would also say, in terms of being the elder daughter, right? There's a lot of things that comes with it. Having these expectations from the society, having expectations from parents, being able to fulfill, not being or not being able to fulfill those expectations. Yeah, so I was never a person who kind of said things out loud. I kind of always kept my emotions buried just because I wanted to not hurt someone else's feelings, or I did not want, or maybe I wanted to people please, right? So I have always been that person. I am trying to do better now because I'm able to identify those issues. That person.
So how did you identify it all? Like obviously this does not happen like just in a day's time, or while you are going through it all. Definitely at that time you will blame yourself for everything that is happening. Like if the world is roaming around, if the sun is rising, it's because of me. Every problem, like the rain is falling outside, it's because of me. All problems, you are the only reason for it. So we start doing that. Any human would do that, right? So how did you start dealing with it, understanding the problem, and what was your therapeutic journey like? Like, did you consult somebody? Did you have a word about this with your friends, or did you yourself tried like sitting with yourself because you were alone? You got more time around you, and that is how you started dealing with it.
Honestly, whatever you mentioned, I did all of those things.
Okay.
So, and something worked out, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, initially, when I was in a very difficult phase, I initially thought therapy would help me. I took like one or two therapy sessions, and that really helped me just talk to someone. Right?
Yeah.
It really didn't help me identify my own issues, but it helped me to like calm down in that moment and just like had someone to talk to, kind
Makes
of a thing,
sense.
right? But apart from therapy, I'm very grateful that I have a very good set of friends who are always there for me. Would wake up at like 4 a.m. their time to talk to me, and just like, listening to the same thing over and over again until I was okay with it. So I was very glad that that happened. And actually, that also helped me understand where I was lacking or where I had to improve myself. My friends helped me identify that as well, because there's someone who know me very well. Apart from friends, of course, my mom, dad, you were also a very big guiding factor in that, right? So all of the factors combined, and even some people who were like physically present there with me, like my roommate or even like other friends who were around me. I remember I had so many anxiety and panic attacks at that time, and I needed someone to be there for me at that point, and they were there. So that entire journey that I went through, it kind of helped me understand that it's okay to be however you are. It's okay to process your own emotions, and you will eventually come out of it, right? And other factor that we spoke about previously, which is spirituality and religion. That is something that again was a very big guiding light for me, and it helped me move forward. And more than anything else, just the fact that I had to focus, I had a goal in mind, and I had to focus on that, that kept me moving.
And you had that one thing in your mind that I don't have to look back. Because if I look back, then everything that I've done, the effort that I've took to reach till here is all going to go in vain.
Exactly.
So that in itself is very inspiring from your side. Second thing that I also noticed, that being siblings, like if you have an elder sibling or a younger sibling, you are never more having like different friend circles. You are more oriented into each other. And while I was in New York, like to visit you for 2 months, I noticed that for the very first time in your life, you had a proper friend circle to yourself and you grew apart. That's when I felt the growing apart wala thing. That now finally she has a circle of her own, and it's not including me. Like here, when we were together, my friend circle includes you. Like you roam around with my friends, while whenever we go around with your friends, I'm there. But first time when I was in New York, I noticed, okay, this is her private circle and there is no existence of me here. And they also welcomed me very nicely, but at the end of the day, I knew you are safe with them. So do you also feel that this is for all sibling bonds and it is common, or what?
Yeah, it is a common thing, not only in a sibling bond, I would say, but in any bond, right? If there's distance or physical distance in that particular bond, these things tend to happen where you grow apart, you grow together as well during that time as well, right? So as you said, like I have my own life there, even you have your own life here now. So which doesn't include me. So when I came here, I realized that, right? That you have a whole different life, you have a different set of people that you go to, that are your go-to people. When I'm not there, and which made me a bit uncomfortable, but also it made me proud of you that you had your own life here. I have my own life there, but our bond is still unbreakable because we are always there for each other, come what may. So
what is that one change when you came back and when you looked at me? What is that one change that you saw inside me that hit you really hard? That, OMG, this was not the person I left behind.
I think you've just grown up. Like you're not that little child anymore that I left behind kind of thing. You've just become this mature young adult who knows how to deal with her life, who has her own ambitions, who has her own passion that you are working towards now, and I'm extremely proud of that. But yeah, just seeing you grow up and not being that. You still have that inner child in you, of course.
That's not dying.
That's
sure.
never dying.
That my audience also knows by now that she's not going to ever be normal.
Yeah, exactly. But still, you just growing up, that has made me really very emotional. After coming here, like last year when I came here, I don't think I realized that very early on. But this time when I'm here, I kind of understand that, oh, now she's grown up.
Yeah,
her life has become, it's growing in a very nice path, and I'm really proud of that.
You'd also come to my office.
Exactly. Yeah,
I was so proud. Yeah. Definitely. So I love seeing that though. Like I always, so the day I took the office space, the only person I wanted in that opening ceremony was you.
And
So
now
I'm
I'm
glad you
here.
came. Yeah. So now before we move on to the end of this entire home segment and we talking about our family life, the friends you went out there and how did you begin with your life, one last thing is that any advices you want to give to young students and their families who are dealing with this similar situation, because right now we are in September where everybody is there for coming for fall. So, you know, a lot of young students are moving towards fall and they're coming there for graduations, undergrad programs, all of it. And there are families who are also dependent on those people. So, what is that one advice you want to give to the families and to the children who are traveling abroad for their studies?
For the students, I would say just don't ever forget the reason why you went where you are right now. Never forget that. The focus that you have to have is the most, that will guide you. And if you leave that, you might like just make nothing out of your life, of course. So, I mean, that thing is very important. Apart from that, getting the right kind of people around you, having the right friendships is extremely important. And of course, I was lucky enough to have that. Not everyone is lucky enough to have that, but I would still say just go out there and try your best to do that. And just be patient. Everything is going to happen as and when it is supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Just be patient with life. It is difficult. I wouldn't say it is not difficult. It's very difficult. You have to be by yourself. You have to go through some very tough phases in life. But once you get through it, you will be the proudest of yourself that you are. And for the families, I would say cut some slack for people who are going
This is
abroad.
specifically for Indian families.
Cut some slack. Just try to be normal about it. Of course, it's very hard for the families as well. But just try to be patient and don't try to nag the students on little things. Give them the freedom that they deserve. Be supportive. Try to be there for them whenever they are there on call or even when they come back to India to visit or whatever. Just try to be supportive to them so that they know that their strength is there in them.
Yeah, makes sense. And I feel that you, yesterday only while we were having this word, you told me a quote and you quoted Taylor Swift. And I would want you to say that specifically for the audience.
So yeah, I mean, I love this song by Taylor Swift called "You're on Your Own, Kid."
Yeah.
That was actually the song that I was listening to when I was going through this whole a very difficult phase, and that's something that took me through it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're on your own, kid, and you're going to get through it.
Okay, amazing. So moving forward, since we are talking about New York, we are talking about you being there, and now we've entered into your phase of starting like the OG New Yorker girl. Okay, what is the one thing that you miss of home? Like sometimes people have like food cravings, they have culture cravings, they have friends that they left here. What is that one thing that you miss the most? And be brutally honest about this.
I mean, I love the festivals here.
Okay.
I mean the pomp and the celebration that we have during the festivals. That is something that I really miss. Of course, I live in New Jersey now, like New York, New Jersey. So the festivals there are celebrated because there's a lot of Indian community there. The festivals are celebrated in a great way, but I still would say that missing of the family life, the warmth that I feel during the festivals is really a great deal for me. And that's why I came here during the Ganesh festival and I had a great time.
Yeah.
Amazing time. So, that's something that I really miss the most.
Yeah, I think India in general, we are all bounded in a culture where there is a whole festive season. And there are 6 months in India where each and every month looks super vibrant. Everybody is meeting each other. There's business that is going around. It's open for everyone. Like for the business families, for the corporates, they have holidays and they go to their houses and they enjoy. So I think it's all very much close knit and we have been taught like that. So anybody who lives in India, they surely miss festivals abroad. No matter what, especially us Gujaratis, we want Navratri.
Exactly.
And that's how now Falguni Parak does Navratri in New York for sure.
Exactly, and honestly, the Garba in New Jersey is amazing. All the Indian artists who are there, they go there. I'm actually looking forward to go to
Yeah.
a few of the events there. So yeah, it's really amazing. Even the Ganesh festival that they celebrate over there, they get those big idols and they make a very big deal out of it. But there's still that feeling of missing the family, just meeting relatives,
Yeah.
just talking out to people. Yeah, that feeling is something that I really miss.
But there's a side of you who is like, I don't want to meet those judgmental relatives. And then there's a side of you who is yet okay and misses those kind of relatives the most.
I mean, I don't miss those kind of relatives, I would say, but I just miss the feeling of doing all of that, right?
Yeah.
Because my whole life has been around
Yeah,
that. So I just miss that feeling. It's not about the relatives or it's not about them being judgmental or not. It's just about having that feeling of being around people that care about you.
And what about the mini India that you have created there? That's the sweetest family that you have. I love those bunch of people. So each and every person I see, I feel if they were in India, they would have not been such amazing personalities that they are when they are in New York, for sure.
I mean, of course, the feeling. I mean, I have wonderful people around me. Each and every person around me right now, I love them, and I'm very, very grateful that they're around me to support me. Whenever I'm down, I'll just call up a friend and say, "Oh, let's just go out on a walk," or just like do something.
Yeah.
We do a lot of things over the weekend. It's just a fun bunch of people and really great people who I know would be there for me if I need them. So I'm very grateful that happened.
Since they are all there and you love them so much, what is that one cultural adaptation of New Jersey or New York that all of you have taken and you guys love that?
A cultural adaptation. I'm not really sure if we've adapted to New Jersey or New York, but I think the overall lifestyle there, right? The part that I like about it is everyone has become each other's family. So, like how we have our family over here, right? Where how we have a friend circle or our parents have a friend circle. We've kind of become that for each other.
Yeah.
So, we have kind of adapted New Jersey and New York to our life now, I would say. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of cultural difference, there's so many things that I could say. Like the lifestyle there, the cleanliness, and a lot of things, right, that we have adapted to. But I would still say that the life overall still remains the same. Our bond still remains the same. So, yeah. And
since you are mentioning so many things about life there, how did you start up and all of it around, I want you to mention that for a woman, how much important it is to have this kind of an experience once in their entire life.
So, as a woman, I think it's an extremely important thing to have that experience. As I said, I wasn't that independent of a person when I was here, or not even independent. I wasn't that free of a person. I was very scared of judgments from people. I was very in my own shell, right? And for a woman to have that experience of like living abroad, even traveling abroad, like even for a few months,
Solo.
it's so important to have that self empowerment because it is important to feel kind of that you are you're on your own kid, right? Because you don't want to depend on any man or any person or your parents to do anything. You want to be financially independent. That's one of the ways of doing that as well. You want to be emotionally independent. That's again a very important thing. Like I have realized how emotionally independent I have become when I moved there because I knew that I had no one else to rely upon rather than me. So that is something very important every woman should have in their life because again, as a woman, everyone is a lot of women are really emotional and they kind of rely on someone to help them with their emotions, right? So for us to be able to go out there and have that experience on our own, it kind of helps us become emotionally independent.
So also observe that us Indian women, we somehow, even though we are like extremely feminist, we are extremely independent, still a part of us knows how to just fall on somebody, like being dependent a little bit. So it starts from smaller habits in family to then pushing it on the partner. And I think for that all to go away, any woman, I also personally, being a travel blogger, knowing how to like just go around, finding new places, shooting, life is really hard. But to sometimes do it alone feels much more accomplished than doing it with somebody. So I know when I am with my co-founder on the shoots versus when I am alone on a shoot. So I know that feeling of just two, three things. The smallest thing is that I'm traveling in a railway train alone and then getting down to my destination. That much feeling is also so empowering that I'm definitely sure that what you have felt would be 10 times of this.
Yeah, but one of the cons of it is I feel you become very hyper independent. And that is something that I realize I have become. And sometimes I feel it's fine to accept your femininity and accept the things that you can't or can do, and just kind of rely on someone to do it. It's fine to do that as well sometimes.
No, you make a very important point.
Yeah, because becoming hyper independent is actually, I feel, a bit toxic, because asking help from others is not bad. You should ask for help, especially when you need it the most, right? So that is something, and just accepting the femininity. Like, we as women are amazing. Every woman has some or the other quality that makes them very beautiful and very amazing, and they should embrace that, and not let any kind of toxic femininity come in the middle of that.
Makes sense. And with we are talking about feminism, we are talking about loving yourself as a woman. I've also observed how amazingly you adapted your work-life balance. And that makes me feel so happy because I've never seen you happy with your work the way you are in New York. And not just with work, you also adapted so many different hobbies, passions that you explored. I want soon, like in this, that even I get an opportunity to start my own hobbies. Like, I used to love dancing, but somewhere that thing got faded because I was stuck with my responsibilities that are still there as an entrepreneur. I'm starting my journey, right? It's not yet 4, 5 years in the line. It's just been 3 years, just how you said, 3 years it's been. And doing this journey is a little bit tough for me also. So I'm not able to, but looking at you, I always feel that someday I'm going to start my dancing career soon.
I'm glad that it helped. Yeah.
So I just want you to put some insights on the same.
So, I mean, starting and following my passion and hobbies, I think it again came from a place of not being very self-fulfilled in a particular phase of my life, and doing the dancing and doing the music that I'm in right now. It kind of helped me get through it as well. So it's kind of the opposite way, right? I went to my passion and hobbies for the reason of kind of feeling nice about myself. Just being nice, feeling nice about myself. So yeah, I started dancing. I started salsa dancing. And I have always been into dancing, you know that.
Yeah.
But then I picked up salsa dancing when I was in university. One of my roommates, she actually pushed me to try out salsa dancing. And I'm so grateful that she did. So that is one of the things. Then when I moved to New York, I got the opportunity in my company only. I got an opportunity to perform in a Diwali event where I performed and sang with a bunch of people. And that actually reignited the passion for music that I already had. As you know, like, our whole family is into music.
Oh God.
And we've always been there.
We do music from bhajan, kirtan to Bollywood to ultra Bollywood, and then we start dancing.
Exactly.
That's us.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've always been into that. But the thing that, so it reignited the passion that I had for music. And I thought maybe it's a good thing to pursue. And then I had this jamming group in New York. I was so fortunate to find that group.
Okay.
And we used to jam like every week or every other week, and just enjoy ourselves, and like bunch of amazing talented musicians. We used to sit together and just jam, right? But then I realized that, okay, I can pursue this more as well. And I started my own page.
Wow.
Yeah, so I started my own page just to kind of keep track of all my music, kind of like a diary.
Tell my audience who pushed it. Who pushed you for that page? I need all the credits. Come on.
Of course you. You're the one who pushes me for everything.
Yeah. For all the things that you've done and you've got embarrassed out of it, is me.
Exactly. Nobody have pushed me for the good. But no, so I tried to like start that page just as a documentation of all the videos that I had. But then I thought I got really good feedback out of that, and then I thought maybe it's something to grow further, and I'm trying to do that. Not really professionally, but yeah, never say never.
But always all my friends keep on asking me that is Asta a trained singer or not? And I want you to sing one song for my audience so that they know you are not trained singer, but you're one of the best singers I know.
I'm not trained.
So just help me with one of the songs and just show me that you're not trained, but you sing so well. You're my little Shreya Ghosal. I always say that.
No. Shreya Ghoshal is a big name.
Yeah, still.
But
I love your voice.
I can try to sing, but right now my voice is a bit.
It's all right. I know you
Okay.
have an amazing voice.
Okay, I'll sing my go-to song. I always sing this song in any of the parties that I go to, which is Agar Tum Saath Ho. I love that song. So I'll just sing a bit of it.
Sure.
पल भर ठहर जाओ दिल ये संभल जाओ. Sorry, I'm a bit
See,
under the weather.
I don't want to do an interview ahead. I just want to sleep and I just want you to like constantly sing and I'll close my eyes and just hear you. Oh my god. With that, like with having cold, if you can sing so good, guys, please check out her page on Instagram. Like it is just amazing. She sings very nice. And we're soon gonna shoot for you.
Okay, thank you. No money, okay.
About that. Really? It's me. Okay, so now that we are all into your music conversation, how has music helped you in your dark phase?
I think music is something that I always relied upon just to calm me down. So I'm not a person who like believes in meditation and stuff. I mean, I've tried, but I just couldn't sit for more than 10
Yeah.
minutes also.
Yeah.
But music is something that like even like just a simple practice of like Saregama Padanisa, it just calms me down instantly. So just like singing it out or even listening to music really helps me calm down in any mood that I am in. So
And what is the favorite part about your jamming group? Like, how did you guys start that whole thing? What happened there that there was so many musical people combining together, and then there's a whole set of people that are meeting every weekend? I think every weekend you guys
almost,
meet,
yeah.
and then I want to know it all. Like, I want to know all the things.
I think the core of that group is just the shared love for music, right? Everyone in that group loves music. Most of them are like, actually all of them
Yeah.
are extremely talented musicians. We just enjoy the company and just enjoy the music, and that's the core. Any person who is interested in music, we invited them to join us, and because the vibe of the group was so nice, everyone kind of stuck on, right?
Yeah.
And that's how it grew. So that's how it's going right now, and I'm so glad that it happened because it honestly started my own journey with my music. I mean, it continued my music journey
yeah.
with music, I would say. So that's something that I went through. Like that's how our jamming group went through.
Okay. And since we're talking about music and your journey of music, do you think that someday in your life you want to pursue it professionally?
I would say never. Of
Yeah.
course, if I get the opportunity to, yes. But right now, I want to treat music as something that as my passion and as a hobby, because I know that I have a lot of responsibilities. I have a lot of things that I want to achieve in my own career path as well. I want to do that first, and then of course, music is a hobby that I want to pursue on the side as well. So as far as both of them go parallelly, I'm very happy.
And before we go to the rapid fire round, what is that one song that keeps reminding you of all the four of us together
Oh my God. This makes me very emotional.
Yeah.
Because we actually had this. We sung the song
Yes.
when we were all four together on a trip recently, right? So which is "Ik Pyar Ka Nagma Hai." So I love that song. And it always instantly reminds me of you, mom, me, dad, all singing together, and just like holding hands
Yeah.
and just singing along.
And then suddenly, when four of us sing Pyar Ka Nagma, the elder part of us, the adults, you and me, become the child, you and me,
Exactly.
who wants to just hold parents and like just be under the protection, and those pampered kids who are like just with parents, like doing this and that
Yeah.
kind of a thing. So I just love that feeling. Like we recently had a trip because you were here, and that is my core memory from the trip. Like we traveled, we went to some of the most luxury resorts, but at the end of the day, my favorite takeaway from the trip was all of us singing on the karaoke that we had taken together and enjoying it.
And that's something that I always fall back upon. Like I remember even on video calls we do that, right? We
Yeah.
kind of do these karaoke nights together and just sing along, and that has been something that kind of binds us as a family as well. And I think that's the reason why I love music so much, or I fall back upon music so much, is because of that as well.
Yeah.
Because us as a core family were so focused on music,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's something that's
And
really
we both
special.
get the artistic side of us from our parents' passions that they never got a chance to pursue.
Exactly.
So both of our artistic sides come from that. Like
Yeah.
our dad used to have a band in his days, which is such a cool thing
It is
if
very
we
cool
say
thing.
right
Yes,
now.
yes.
And then our mom used to do state level Garba and Navratri and stuff. So I just feel it's such a proud thing that I feel sometimes they were not lucky, or circumstances never gave them an opportunity. But when they see that we are having that side of us still going around, and we would for sure never let it die, maybe we'll also have some circumstances in our life, but we'll not want it to die. They also have that feeling that okay, this is alive.
And I want to point one thing out in terms of like circumstances like hampering the hobbies and stuff. I actually was speaking to a colleague of mine, and she advised me because she was appreciating my music videos, and that's when she told me that Asta, you should really pursue this as a, not even as a hobby, but as something that you always fall back upon in life. And if you integrate that as a part of your life now on, when those responsibilities and circumstances come in, you will still prioritize it because it is an integral part of your life now.
Yeah.
So it will still be an integral part of your life even when the circumstances come in. So it's up to you how you find the way to make that as an integral part of your life.
Yeah.
But that's something that really stayed with me.
Yeah, it's
since
all
you said
about the
that.
priorities. And
Yeah.
you've put it out very nicely, honestly.
Yeah.
Nobody would have put it out more in a better way than you just did it for all of us.
Yeah.
Okay, with this we come to the most exciting segment, that is the rapid fire.
Okay.
So at Filterless, we do a very cool rapid fire. We don't want you to rapidly answer, but we want you to have this round with the most cool and honest answers that you know.
Okay.
Okay?
I try to be.
That you are.
Oh.
You're my sister, come on. Okay. One thing you miss about me the most when you are away.
Miss the most about you.
Yeah.
Just a stupid banter. Like
Okay.
you just being there by my side and just annoying me stupidly.
Do
showing
I
me
look like a Jerry to you?
Yes, you are. You are the Jet to my Tom. No, actually. Anyways.
Yeah.
You're the Rachel to my Monica. I
Oh,
would
that's
say.
much better. I always like that. Who's more stubborn between the two of us?
Of course you. There's no question. It is you.
You are also Ziddi. You went there, you lived everything.
That's not
That is a
Zid.
Zid.
No, but the stubbornness in little things. That's
Yeah.
you.
That's me. One secret about me that nobody knows but you know.
Oh my god, should I reveal it?
Obviously, you have to.
I mean, I don't think it's a secret, but I think so. तू ऐसा दिखती है गुंडी टाइप की, but actually अंदर से बहुत स्वामी टाइप की है.
Oh,
Like really like sweet, innocent,
Yeah.
and yeah. So the opposite kind.
Yeah. So I have a side of me which the world has not seen, which I don't wish to sometimes because it's like my inner side, my core. But yeah. One favorite food item in New York and one favorite food item in Mumbai. Don't say Mohan sandwich, please don't say Mohan sandwich.
I told you, मुझे मोहन sandwich के सपने आते हैं. So
Oh my
yeah,
God.
but
For reference, Mohan Sandwich is a sandwich store below our building that has been there from our childhood, and that guy makes similar recipe from generations.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, so I love Mohan sandwich, but Mumbai ka to definitely vada pav and pav bhaji. Like that's unbeatable. I can never get it anywhere in the world. New York is. I mean, I think New York doesn't have a. Of course, New York pizzas are there, bagels is there, but I've never really liked that a lot. I just like trying different cuisines in New York. Like the restaurants are so good. The cuisines are so good.
One of your favorite restaurants there.
I really like the restaurant called Rua Thai, which was a Thai place. The food was amazing, and it actually had a nice Ganpati ka murti also over there, which
Oh,
I
you
kind of
noticed
find,
that?
yeah, I kind of found it very fascinating. But yeah, that restaurant I really liked.
Okay. One place in New York, just how we have Nariman Point, one place in New York that's your comfort place.
That's actually like near my house only. So I live in Jersey City by the waterfront in Newport. So the waterfront over there, it's kind of like Nariman Point to me. I always like whenever I come home from office, I always try to go out on a walk and just do nothing. Actually, I just listen to music
And
just
my
walk.
core memory from my trip to New York was that we had ice cream
Oh yes.
at Newport, like the riverfront. We had like a whole tub of ice cream. And like those two sad girls, but in a happy way.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And even the exchange place waterfront is amazing. So I mean, I living like as a Mumbaiker, I've always been close to water. I
Yeah.
love the sound of calming waves, and that instantly calms me down.
So you found your spot. later.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Your go-to karaoke song. And you have to sing that.
I already sang Agar Tum
One
Saath
more,
Ho.
one more. There has to be one more. I know you're a big Taylor Swift fan, a big One Direction fan. Anything's fine.
Okay, now since you mentioned One Direction, I know the song that we both like a
Yeah.
lot and we both relate to, so I think I'll do that.
Okay.
It's called Little Things by One Direction. Okay. Your hand fits in mine like it's made just for me, and bed is in mine, it was meant to be. And I'm joining up the dots with the freckles on your cheeks, and it all makes sense to me. I won't let these little things slip out of my mouth, 'cause it's you, oh it's you, it's you they add up to. I'm in love with you. Enjoy these little things.
I love that. That song makes me
I
emotional.
literally-
Oh my
yeah, it
god.
hit me a
It
lot.
just reminds me of us together. Okay. A habit of mine that's extremely annoying. You can say that to me in secret and please be nice to me.
I think your whole personality is annoying.
My god, I'm not that bad of a person. Please, at least not in front of my audience, man. Be good to me, na? I've been good to you in this whole.
But wait, so I think I mean, it annoys me a bit that you're so carefree. Like you have no care in the world about anything.
I've developed that
which,
taste.
which really annoys me a lot because of my like nature.
Yeah.
Like I like 100% control on things.
Yeah.
So I find that a bit annoying.
I'm not careless though. I'm not that careless.
No, you're carefree, I said.
Huh.
But yeah, again, I love that about you because I think I kind of want that a bit in myself as well. So I love that about you, and I love that in your personality as well.
Okay, with this, we come to an end of this amazing.
Wait.
Okay.
So since you have been asking me so many questions, I have a few rapid fire questions
Wow.
for you.
When did the production give you that?
Those are my questions.
Okay, amazing. This is first time happening on Fiddlers. Trust
Yeah,
me.
so exactly, because I'm here, of course it's going to happen for the first time.
Okay, the elder sister things. Just you do you.
But there are a few questions for you. Let me start with that. So, if I wasn't your sister, would we actually be friends?
Okay. Oh god. I honestly don't feel this is a rapid fire. You're firing on me with this. I guess we would be friends, but we would not be as close as friends because our personalities are way too different. When we talk about being siblings versus being friends, friendship is all about your interests, who you relate to more, who's going to be there in your similar interests. When it comes to having a sibling, it is good that we are extremely poles apart, because that gives me a whole different perspective of life, which I would have never thought. So yes, we would have been friends, but not this close that we are right now. So I'm grateful that we are siblings.
Okay.
And let's just keep it that way.
I accept that answer.
Yeah.
What's one piece of advice from me that you always ignore?
Being patient.
Yes.
I just can't. So you keep on telling me that time will be the only solution. You be calm, but because my nature is such, I don't think I'm ever going to take that.
You're not ever gonna.
I'll try with maturity. I'll try being a good woman, being a better lady,
Okay.
but not that much.
Alright.
Otherwise, the carefree me will feel very bad.
Okay. If you had to describe me in 3 words, what would they be?
I hate love you.
3 words.
Okay. I love you.
Oh.
You're the best sibling I could. I do not want to even ask this thing to mom and dad to have anybody else but you, because I know how much emotionally dependent. Even though you are away from me, I'm still today. Like the fact that when you called that you're coming back to India, already felt that I was just losing myself. I had lost like all my thoughts because I was just waiting for my airport timing when I come, hug you tight, and that's it. You are the actual calm to my chaos.
Oh.
So thank you.
If you could swap one trait with me, what would it be?
Of giving my 100% in whatever I do, and sometimes doing it slow. What I do is I give 100% to all the things, because of which sometimes I tend to burn out faster than you. And that is the one thing that I would want to adapt from you.
And what's one thing that I do better than you?
You sing better than me. Definitely. I'm a bathroom singer and everybody knows that by now. And the second thing that I always feel is that when it comes to managing tough times, managing responsibilities and managing tough times, I am that person who would escape from it, while you have taught me an habit of fighting through it. So I know that is too big, and maybe that is also because of the age difference that we have. I'm still 5 years younger to you, and I know that I still have to see a lot of life to deal with things, and my times may not be the worst times. But yeah, with experience, I would want to learn how to go through phases and not escape for a while or escape for anything, because my instant reaction to any problem is I'll take a trip and I'll come back and then I'll figure it out. Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay, so I'm done with my rapid fire now.
Okay,
How was
that's
that?
it. It was amazing. Honestly, I did not think that you have such questions for me. It was definitely not rapid, because I'm sure I would have not been prepared for this thing. So thank you so much, Asta. And I'm sure that we're soon going to have a lot of more conversations, and I would want to visit you again and again.
Of course, you should.
Okay.
You are.
I'm always welcome, yeah. That's my house too. But yeah, 2 more iPhones, 2 more good gifts that you're going to send to me soon. Thank you so much for being on the show and gracing my show, like gracing it in the most beautiful way possible. Because apart from all the guests, this one was really core special to me. So thank you so much.
It was really special for me too.
And did you
I
enjoy
love
it?
you. I loved it. This is a first time for me. I've never done something like this before.
Yeah.
I was nervous, of course. But yeah, it was such a nice thing just talking to you. This is something that we do every day.
Exactly.
So I liked doing
So
it.
do you think we should document? No, let it be. Let people not hear our bullshit.
No, it's fine to document it sometime.
Yeah.
But no, I loved it, and I'm extremely proud of you. I'm extremely proud of what you're doing. And keep doing what you're doing. Keep growing. And I love you. And I'm always there for you.
Love you too, and always there for you. Mwah. Bye.
With lots of laughter and lots of banter, we come to an end of this most emotional and loving conversation with my loving sister Asta Shah. And I'm super, super excited for you all to see and love this episode. And for more such conversations, don't forget to like, comment, share. And until next time, stay real, stay filterless.